bonus damage as you're
All
out on the
right.
hunt, making
See if
it
this is working.
easier to try and get through a hunt when you're playing by yourself.
Looks like it's working.
I'm not
All right.
entirely sure how much I love that. It works for now, but if I come up with something better,
Looks like it's lagging a little bit.
I'll definitely try and make that work instead. But for now, it works, and I like it
Give me
enough
just a
that
second.
I've kind of added it in.
Well, hi.
And really, honestly, anything I've come up with is something to change so far.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right in. I want to go ahead and just kind of go through some of the rules that I've laid out and
for
how they work, and maybe
these,
edit some things
actually going
live on
to
stream.
Change this a little bit.
I know last time I talked about kind of just a little bit of everything.
So I don't want how to say this,
but
so say you get stunned, right? Or say an opponent deals.
Yeah, I think I just
stun
want
damage.
to just talk
I might
about
want it to be
the
something
rules,
that
and then
it takes
if I got time,
a couple of hits
try and
of stun damage.
see if I can't put together a monster
before
today.
you are
So,
stunned.
let me get this switched over.
But I'm not sure. I'll have to think through
Okay.
that a little bit more. Obviously, if
Uh,
a creature hits you
this
with
document
poison attack,
here
you're gonna be poisoned right away.
most of the rules for this game,
If you
and
get
how
hit with
I want to use
a
them.
paralyzing attack, I think there's actually a buildup of that. So I might for these two, I might have to
So
alter this because I don't.
I
have
do need
that
to
in
change the
rules,
order
how
because this
getting
is kind
hit
of a,
with
I guess, a precursor
with a attack
to
that deals
how it would be
stun to your
if
character.
I do end up, if and when
I don't want
do
it to,
end up
to
releasing
necessarily happen right away.
these
Maybe
for other people
I don't
to
know.
play around with.
Same with paralyze. I don't know if I want that to happen.
But we'll
right
just kind
away.
of go through it little by little. So,
But I'm not sure.
go ahead and start with health
staggered.
here. So,
Let me just
says
go over
your
these,
health
I
is
guess.
tracked
So
by
poison here,
the bar,
you get hit with poison.
via the
You
bar
are
on the right
poisoned
side of the character sheet. As you
for
suffer
a grand
hits
total
during
of 3
a hunt,
moves.
your health will be reduced by
So when you make
the
a
attack
move,
score of the monster.
you're poisoned.
So this is something
before
I'm
you make a
actually
move, you would tick off
thinking
one
of
health,
changing.
and then you could
But I'm
progress
not-
to make
I'm
that
not
move, and it would do that
Positive
for
on that, and
the grand
maybe I'll
total
get into
of
that.
3 moves made, and you would
Maybe
track
I'll-
that with your progress here.
I might
So
get into
after the
that
third
later.
move
I'm not sure
is made,
when we're doing
your poison is
the
cleared.
monster creation. So,
you could also use
but
an
by the
item,
attack score of the monster you are facing,
like an
the monster
antidote
also
to
has a
clear the
specific
poison.
set of moves that can be used when
and
a
that would
damage clock is filled.
mean you would only receive like
that can
one
inflict
tick
more
of
damage than its normal attack score.
damage to your health.
So this whole thing is
you
subject to
succeed.
change right now.
So stun, basically,
I'm
you can't move.
contemplating
And similar to trying to mash the buttons,
just having it
you can try and make a move
be that whenever
to
someone misses,
shorten
someone can choose one of the moves,
that. So you would
and
use
therefore
your
there wouldn't
expert.
really be a need
You would-
for
you
attack
would
score.
roll on the move,
But I'm not.
restore heal,
I'm not
which,
positive.
if you remember,
So to
restore heal
kind of
is here. So you
lay
roll
it
on
out right now,
that, and
when the monster takes so much damage and it
you would add
fills
whatever your expert
a
skill,
hunt,
or
one of the clocks
your
for
expert
its
skill is.
for its
So if
hunt.
you've got a negative in here, you're going to be rolling that at a negative. If you've got a
And
0,
I believe I went over
you
that
won't add anything. If you've
last
got
time.
Like a plus
The
1,
the
plus
clocks
2,
look like this:
you're going to be
interior circle,
adding
exterior circle.
that.
So exterior
in there.
only
And then
the exterior
paralyzed
circle
would
can
be
take
might,
elemental
which I
and
might change
non-elemental
that
damage, while the
to
interior only fills
physique.
by non-elemental
But
damage.
I'm not sure.
So once this clock is filled,
So it's basically
you would
the
progress
same
the
thing,
hunt by
but you
1
just
mark.
have to use a different skill to try
And then going back up
resist
to
it.
this,
And
that would
no matter
allow
what,
the monster
you have
to use one of
basically
the
waste your
GM
next
moves.
move
And let me see.
to
I might
try
actually
and
bring
get
up
out of one of
what
these,
I've got for
'cause you can't
monsters, and we'll just
So your next move is to
look at one
and,
that we've got sitting here. All right. So gonna look
try and
at
break your
the
stun or your paralyze. And if we look at the moves,
Great
here,
Jaggers here.
I'm
So
not
currently
sure if I have
it's
that
got,
baked in quite
I
yet.
said damage score, and the other sheet it's
So on a strong
attack
hit,
score.
if you or an ally have the paralyzed,
like I said,
or
this
stun
is
condition,
unfinished,
you may
so
clear it.
bear with
So
me.
This kind of represents
But
you
these
going
would
up
be
and,
the
like,
moves.
kicking your friend to
So
try and get them out of the stun or the paralyze. So on a weak hit, same as above. So you're able
currently,
to break it.
once that
but
clock
you also
is
suffer
filled,
-1 stamina.
the GM,
saying that you got it,
or if you're
but
playing
you immediately
without a
had to, like,
GM,
try and dodge out of the
would
way.
either choose or
Or
roll for
progress the hunt
one
clock
of
forward,
these.
meaning
And
it took the full
these
amount of time.
these are moves that
then on a miss,
deal damage
your attempt is
outside
effective,
of the player's
price,
turn.
meaning you probably got hit.
And so
because you were
basically, how
so
they
you
work
get
is once
knocked
that
out
clock
of-
is
you still
filled,
get knocked
you mark
out
the
of,
progress on the hunt,
paralyzed or stun,
and
if you
then
take
the
damage,
creature has the chance
but
to
you also
do
have to suffer a hit at that point because
I guess a little bit larger
there's no other
attack that'll
alternative.
do a little bit more.
I guess you could say
so
that you stay stunned or paralyzed if you want, and if
so
you'd rather
basically,
not take the hit,
yeah.
but
Let
at that
me go
point,
ahead and
you're-
explain that.
You're gonna
So
have to spend
when that
another
happens,
move
if
after
you
that to try
rolled like a 1
or
here, it
restore
says all
yourself.
characters on guard.
And,
What that means is,
that
or what
could
that looks
mean
like, and I'd write it out in more
progressing the hunt
detail
clock forward
later.
instead for pay the price with no benefit of
What that means is
getting that.
the monster kind of goes on a
it could
rampage
also,
temporarily,
it means that
and so
you're
it puts
not gonna be
everyone,
able to
it takes
deal
everyone out of
any
their
damage on the next turn. So it's kind of this balance of do
aggression
I
mode, and puts them
do I
on
have
guard.
the time to try and do this again, or should
If
I
they rolled a two,
just
okay. So before I
deal with it,
continue, so that
deal with the
that would
hit
be the move.
and
That's it.
jump right back into
So
combat
this
and
one
start
would have no
trying to
damage,
fight the enemy.
and
Our character
It-
sheet here.
it would
Staggered,
basically from there you would
so
allow the
staggered
players
actually comes in
make their moves for
3
the
different
next
tiers.
round,
And
and
I did
they would
that
have to
kind
make
of
their moves from
emulate,
a position of on guard as
like
opposed to
creatures roaring.
being in a
So
position
anytime
of
you're knocked off your feet,
aggression.
or there's some sort of tremors,
So,
or a creature roars, you have to deal with
if
stagger.
we remember from last time, on guard
and,
and aggression are kind of meant to.
So just like in the game,
they're
how
very
you can
similar
get
to
multiple tiers of earplugs to
how Iron
try
Sworn
and avoid
did
a
advantage
progressively
and
louder roar from a monster, to try and
disadvantage.
not be staggered. You can use your decoration
And those
slots
aren't
to
the
negate
best terms, and I like
tiers of that. So for each,
I like on guard and I
if
like
it's-
aggression.
So say it is a roar.
just because
this
they
is
feel
where
more
knowing,
Monster Hunter.
knowing what your monster does through experience.
so,
This is where.
But basically,
that
this would
comes in
switch your
handy.
character into a defensive mode, meaning that you couldn't make
So
certain
if you
moves.
know that one of your monster's moves is to roar,
since some
and it
moves
staggers
require
you,
you to be
and you
in
don't
aggression,
have any earplugs,
like
depending on depending on whatever
strike,
tier of
you
roar
have to
that
be
monster has,
in aggression to use
you're gonna
strike, and that
want
basically just allows
some
you to
sort
deal
of level of
harm
headphones
easier when
earplugs
you have aggression.
So, say it's a monster that's got a tier 1 roar. If you don't have your earplugs in,
to our rules
this
here.
would actually be a -1 to your next move.
Actually, let's look at one more or a couple more of these. So if you rolled a 2,
and you're unable to move,
once that clock fills up, you mark your progress.
But if it's like an Elder Dragon who's got a tier 3 roar,
if you rolled a 2, the monster would consume. So this is the Great Jagras. If you played the game, you have probably seen it eat
so you would want tier 3
just a dead carcass laying around, and when it does that, its belly gets huge.
So it's up to you if you want to spend your.
I'm not sure if in the game
decoration
it
slots
heals when it does that, but I
negate
just
that
thought
so you don't take
it would be
negatives to
an okay idea to
your
add
moves
that in.
when they do use
It
that.
also would reset the
That's
last
something
clock.
that you can think
So
about. But at the same time,
that's kind of
you
what the
know,
heal represents, is resetting the last clock. And
if
then
you'd rather go into the
it
hunt
consumes
without it,
the carcass of
then
a large beast to rejuvenate
you
the health.
free up those slots to do.
And that also
things.
means that instead of rolling on this
Honestly,
table,
you don't know if
you would roll on this after
the-
consume. It would. I think it would
if the
also
creature's going
increase
to roar or
the
cause some
normal
kind of tremor,
damage that the monster would do.
any time because the
Right.
moves are supposed to be random.
Just because the Jagras typically gets a little bit stronger when it consumes. So, not that the Jagras is
I think I forgot
strong
to mention
by any
that
means.
I want this to be a fairly
but it would unlock all these. So
GM-less system.
1 on this one's the same.
So I want you to be able
2
to play
would
this
be it
without
vomits
needing
the
a GM,
carcass,
which is
so
why
it stands
I really
still
liked
to empty
the
its
idea
full
of
belly
using
on the
Iron
ground.
Swarm
All of the next moves are made
to,
at +1. So this would be a move that the monster makes that actually is advantageous to the players.
It's entirely GM-less solo play.
So originally
or,
we'd
you
have
know, you
chest
can play,
slam, so it's a close range
GM-less with
thing. So
multiple
anybody
people.
at close range deals
And the
+2
rules for that are
harm
baked into
to
the
one
system.
target in close range with the
So
highest threat.
I want this to be like that. So
Whereas
you
this is stomach slam, which is
you
close
don't
range,
have to
deals
wait
+3
for
harm
a
to
big group of
one
people,
close range
and you don't
target
have to have
with the highest threat.
GM
So
who
it just kind of adds a little bit more to each of
wants
the
to play,
abilities.
but can't ever play a character.
This
and has to spend all
this
their
one
time,
changes. So this is
doing
charge.
all the
It's
math and-
long range. So anybody
and,
who's at a further range. And I
tracking
don't
the
know if I
monster and stuff,
explained
like, no, everyone
range
is
works.
kind of determining.
But basically,
what
there's
happens
2
through the
ranges in
rolls,
the game. You
know.
can be at close range or long range.
So and maybe.
So the
maybe
monster
if I
basically
jump on another
changes
stream,
position and puts.
I'll go over the moves. And
It charges
kind of
at one
explain
person who is
how-
at long range.
how
Anyone
they're,
who is at close range
GM-less.
at that point is
And
moved to long
how they're
range, and
designed
that one
for,
target who is at long range moves to close range.
Not needing
So if you're
someone
using
to
a
micromanage everything
a
for
weapon
you,
like the
but
bow guns
instead
or the bow,
you decide
you're gonna
what
do
you're
less
trying to
damage
do,
at
and
close
you make a
range
roll.
potentially.
Or you decide what
So and then it deals +3
what
harm
is the
to
best
the character at
move,
long range. The character who is the target
for
is
the
switched to
circumstance.
close range. All characters are shifted
and then,
to long
the
range,
last
except for
status
the
effect here
target.
is bleed.
If there
Bleed
are no
will
targets,
last
the Great Jagras
until it
targets
is
one
healed.
character at close range. All other rules are the same. So
unlike
it would
poison,
still
which only
shift
lasts
everyone
for
else
3
to long
moves,
range
bleed will just keep
at that
going
point.
and going and going until you
when
either
it's got a
take
full
the
belly,
time
it doesn't
to,
really charge anywhere. So I put spit bile.
to roll or to use the restore
So it's
heal
also
move
long
plus
range.
your
It deals
physique,
+2 harm and water blight
which maybe
to
I
all
won't change that
characters
with the
at
physique
long
since this is
range.
physique.
So it kind of spits out like a spread of.
and then for each move that you make until you are healed,
Of its
you take
stomach bile.
-1 to health.
And then
So this basically simulates you trying to
spit
duck
vials
down
on both
for
of these, so I
cover
might
in a bush, just
switch
like in
those
the
around.
game,
So
trying to
that should
basically
probably
patch
be
yourself
5
up.
on this. Heavy roll.
Or you could use the
switch to
item
4.
Astera
So,
Jerky. You know, that's what it is in the
spit
game.
vial on this one's
to
basically the
remove
same.
And then our blights. So water blight.
Oh, so this one's single target. I
reduces.
think. Yeah, and then this one, once it consumes, it basically becomes a
So
spread.
Your max
attack.
stamina is reduced to 4.
But I still should
So
switch.
you
the
start
order
off
of
with a
those.
max stamina
And
of
then
7.
so charge would then
If
be
you are
replaced by
afflicted with
heavy
water
roll
blight, your
instead,
max
which
stamina
is a
drops
close
to
range.
4
Deals +3
for
harm to all
the next
characters
3
in close
moves.
range. And if
That
you roll a
means that
6,
if you have
you
7
choose 2 of
stamina
these.
when you get hit by water blight, all that disappears, and it's dropped down to 4.
Yeah, so that's those
and
are
you go
the
from
moves.
there.
So
It means
what
if
I'm
you try and
thinking
restore
about
your
changing
stamina,
it
you can
to
only go up to 4.
is it would
for the next
still
3
use these moves.
You can use an
but
item to clear that, or you
Instead of
can
waiting
stick
until
it
a
out.
clock is filled to use these moves,
So Ice
the
Blight,
the
all
pay the
stamina
price
use
would
is
be
doubled. So
the GM
anytime you use a move that says
the GM
you
moves.
use,
So like on a failed
1
roll.
stamina,
So
you
if we go
use
back to
2 stamina.
our moves here, so if you make a strike
those
and
numbers
you
would be
you
doubled,
miss,
so it'd be,
right?
instead of 1, you would use 2 stamina. If you're supposed
The
to
attack
reduce
fails,
2
you must pay the
stamina,
price,
you would use
and your foe has
4.
initiative.
So you would drop from 7.
So
to
the pay the
3,
price would be
which,
the GM move. I'm not entirely sold on it.
that's
It's
not
subject to
good,
change
obviously.
always. And actually, I might.
Dragon
So this
Blight,
is my
so
notes page.
Dragon
I
Blight
just kinda
means that
anything
you
that I want to
deal
work on.
0. Your weapons
the
deal
bottom, I
0
just,
elemental damage for the next 3 moves.
Throw it in here.
Which,
so
if you're
write that. So
depending on
switch,
elemental damage to help you progress
GM
your clock,
moves.
that's a pretty big detriment.
Wow. I could
You don't
spell.
want that to happen. Fire Blight, you take -1 health per move,
Clock
and I believe
based to.
I don't remember if in the game Fire Blight
to player moved.
I don't remember if it stays for only a certain amount of time or if it'll just stay
Based.
until you
Question mark.
roll
Go ahead
a
and
bunch
highlight
or
that
jump
one
in
because I'm
water.
not sure on that.
So I'm gonna have to
We'll
put a little bit more thought into that one
give that one like a yellow
because
background.
I haven't really determined how to get rid of it yet. And then Blast Blight.
All right, so
Next
let's get
time
back
an
to our
enemy
special
hits
moves.
you,
Wow, we're
to deal
really
harm,
cooking
or
through
next
these
time
moves
you-
right now. So
you
we've gotten through
roll a
or,
miss on a
through the
move,
rules.
You suffer.
Gotten through all of
-1
one.
health and -1 to your
Fainting.
next move.
So when your health bar goes below your final
Simulating the fact that you just got hit with
your
an
final
explosion and got knocked off your feet.
block. Yeah. So if we look on here,
You could
final
also
block when it goes below that.
probably try and use restore heal.
Your character faints
to
and is
remove
removed
that.
from the battlefield. When this happens, you clear the hunt clock
it's up
and
to you.
mark
If you would rather keep
off
trying to attack your foe,
2 spaces on the hunt
that's
timer.
also something you could do, and just suffer the consequences. So it's all.
If
it's all
you or the
choices
rest
and
of your
balance.
hunt party collectively faint 3 times, the
And
hunt is
then
over.
I think the last thing that I want to
when
talk about.
the hunt ends in failure,
I
this
feel
way
like
it
I've
is
said
up
that a
to
couple
you
times, but the last
or
thing that I
the
want to talk about
GM
is
if
your
you're playing
stamina
with
and
one. What
how
this
to use
entails.
your stamina.
If the monster
we've
is
kinda
threatening a village,
determined
this could
that,
mean that you were
certain
unable
moves
to divert
will,
the creature or that it
reduce
has
or
gained
increase
specific
your stamina.
ground or significant ground in that direction.
But why?
So
why do we have
last stream
the
I brought
stamina
up
bar?
there was
aside
a
from just emulating something
kind
that's
of
in
like
the game.
a half-hour long Monster
what
Hunter
your
movie
stamina
that was
bar
on Netflix. It was a
allows you
CGI
to do
movie
is
following one
it
of
allows
the
you to
hunters from the
alter
game
a dice roll.
that
So
when they were younger, when they were, I think,
let's say you roll, right, and you're
and
trying to do something, for whatever it is.
their town was being
You
threatened by a
say you're trying
Teostra.
to
I think it was Teostra.
to
It was either
hit the monster,
Teostra or Lunastra.
and you roll really bad.
I'm not sure.
You roll like a 3. Right?
But
So a
the
3, even if you add your
as
your
the
highest
story
skill,
progressed and
which
as
is a
each
+2, that's
thing
still a 5,
happened,
that's a miss.
the Teostra got closer to
What you
the
can
village
do
with each
is
passing
your
day,
stamina
whether they
is
failed in their goals or
within
not.
the ranged number
So
of something that
so
would
you know,
be
when it's talking about
some sort of hit.
if you fail
So,
to hunt,
a 7 on the dice
it
roll
could
is a
mean
hit,
that
and that's why our mouse here is
the
7.
Teostra
So
you know,
if you rolled
is
that
unhindered in
a
this
grand
portion
total
of
of,
its
you know,
hunt, and
5,
in game wise, it would
really
mean
don't want to have
that
a miss
they're
on
that
this,
much
and
closer
you've
to the
got
village.
your
And if
stamina
you have
up
a
to
timer
7
going
at this
for
point,
how close
you can
this creature is to the
expend
village,
all your stamina
and
down to 2
everything that you're trying to do is
to make
to
that
offset that.
a weak
You know,
hit
that would
instead.
obviously be a bad thing. So, stamina. Stamina is used to determine how much energy a character has to perform moves or actions
And
within the
so-
hunt. It can be every character's
so that
best
would
friend or
basically
worst
alter
enemy,
your dice
depending
roll. That
on
would
the direction
change-
the hunt goes.
change
As
the
long as you
outcome
have
of your roll
stamina
from
to
a
expend,
3
your character
to
is
a
free to
7
use it for
instead,
abilities
making your
and change the outcome of die rolls.
making
When you
your
run out
move
of stamina,
a
though, that's when
weak
things
hit.
turn bad.
And like I said,
When your
would
stamina
be
is reduced
to
below
2,
0,
and you would
you
have to
become
try and build
exhausted
it
and
up
begin
back
taking extreme penalties to
7
rolls.
again.
At exhaustion level 1, all rolls are made at -3.
So
And if your
the
character
reason
reaches
these are
exhaustion
grayed
level
out
2, the penalty
is
becomes -6.
you have the option through the use
oops,
of, I
all rolls,
believe
not
it's
ask
energy
rolls.
drink that increases
all rolls.
your max stamina.
Your best option is to point.
Or
At that
yeah,
point is
eating
to
food at
attempt to
camp
replenish
increases
your
max
energy
stamina to
by
12.
using the recover
So you would start
stamina
instead of
move. The
being
recover
at
stamina
7,
move is the
you
only
would-
move that can be made
your
without
max stamina would then
the
bump up to
penalties
12.
of exhaustion.
Oh, I just zoomed in. Didn't mean to do that.
Um,
So the way that would affect
one
it
thing I want to
is,
think about
if
is
if your stamina is somewhere in the range of 10, 11, and 12, and you rolled
a different way to
anything
handle
under
recovering
that. So say
stamina.
you rolled a roll of 7, so it's a weak hit, but you didn't want to score a
Because
weak
currently
hit. You
it's
really want this to
not
be a strong
super
hit.
easy to
You
recover
can
stamina.
Use your stamina.
Some
and you-
moves allow you to, like,
There.
you know,
So you
strike
you can
here.
use your
You
stamina,
deal 1 harm
and
and
you can
gain 1
expend
stamina.
all of
If you
this, and it would alter whatever your
strong
roll
hit.
is to be
clash, you can choose
you know,
deal
whatever
harm
your
or gain 1
stamina
stamina.
level is set at. So if your stamina is at 12 and you rolled, you know, anything
not
from a 2 all the
entirely
way
sure.
up to, you know, a 9, you could
Anyways, moving on. So
expend this,
right
and
here
it would drop
we've
it back
got
down to 2 again.
threat. So
But
threat
you would
is a
make
twofold
that- you
device.
would make
First,
your
it
new
can be
roll a
used by the
12
GM
instead,
to choose which
meaning
target
you
certain
change from
certain
being
GM
a
moves
miss to a strong hit,
can be used
which-
against.
you know, that
For example, the Great Jagus might
could be
target a ranged character with the highest threat level for a
just a
vomit
huge
attack.
turnaround
Likewise,
in the
it may
fight.
target the
So,
character with the highest threat
a
level.
strong hit, meaning your character is no longer
Threat level risk
trying to
for
play on
a
the
lunge attack.
defensive,
I don't like
which
the
I
way that's
haven't really
worded.
got into that yet. They have
For a lunge
they
attack.
have what I'm
When
calling
moves like this
aggression,
are used,
meaning that
or if
they're-
harm is
you know,
dealt to the character with the highest threat,
they're
the
in a
character
position
receives
to deal more
double
damage
harm. What?
rather than trying to either just straight up defend
this was,
or
I think,
trying to deal damage from a place of
So originally
defense,
I
which
was
means you're
going
gonna be
to
dealing
have
less damage to
those
the monster.
abilities deal just double the attack
Which,
score or the
I'll
damage
get into
score
that more
of the
at a different time. I think next time I'll probably try and
of the
have,
monster, but I changed that.
a list of things that, like, this is specifically what I want to talk about. So, but I hope that explains
I'm struggling
how
here.
the stamina works.
There.
So,
Sorry.
yeah. So
A lot of this I
the
write
last part about
while
stamina is
at work,
the
and
negatives down here.
I'll just
So
kind of
once you
do
start
some quick notes
getting into
via
the
my
negatives
phone.
here,
And formatting is not easy on
this
my phone, so
becomes
I just leave it for when I can come back to it.
a detriment to your roll.
The
So
second
any
part of the
move that
threat
you make at
mechanic
this
is
point,
how the characters can
if
use
you have
it
a
to their
stamina
advantage.
of
Certain weapons
-1,
allow the
any
characters
move
to
that you
empower
try and make
them,
is going to have
their weapons, to perform powerful
a -1
attacks,
to that roll.
dealing bonus harm depending on the
And
threat level of
if you're down to -2,
that the character has. Threat is
any
increased
move
by
that you
1 for
make-
each
I actually think
time
that
you
this
score a strong
bumps you
hit
down
that
to
deals
a
harm to your foe.
-3 to any roll. But I can't quite remember. It's either -2 or -3. So if you have
I think
-2
eventually
stamina,
I just need to
and you're
make
trying to
like
hit
a
a
quick,
monster,
quick and easy
you're
rules
gonna have -2
layout.
to that roll, simulating exhaustion on your character.
just to have stuff like this.
And
Like,
at that point, you can't reduce your stamina anymore, so
you
you're
know,
gonna have to start.
characters
taking
or
away
the
at
GM
your
can look
health.
at this and just be like, oh, how much
Anyways,
how much
that's
threat
pretty
do I
much
get? How do I gain threat? They can
the
just look on
bare
there.
minimum of,
Oh God,
of the basics of the game.
undo. Threat.
and what I've
And
come up
threat
with
is
so
increased
far.
by 1 for each time you score a strong hit that deals harm to the foe. Anyway,
if anybody comes across
charge.
this
and
has thoughts and
certain
or
weapons
anything,
come with the
feel
ability
free to
to
comment
build
and
up
let
a
me know,
charge that
and,
can be stored
I'll try and
to increase its power or
get
unlock
back
other
to you on
abilities.
that,
Managing your charge
thanks
is essential
for
for
watching,
unlocking the full potential of these weapons.
And
For example, the longsword
have a
builds
good
up charge,
day.
spiritual energy, by dealing harm with decisive counterattacks. When your charge gauge is full, you can attempt to make a special roll to store your charge and raise your spirit gauge by 1. This allows for more powerful attacks that can be unleashed all at once. Let's see here if I can find the long sword on here, and we'll kind of go over that. Show you what that means. So, so let's look at this. Longsword moves, threat level 4. That means the max threat level for this weapon is 4. Builds up spirit gauge through counters. That's just kind of like a quick synopsis of the weapon. I'm actually going to look at it on here. I think I changed it on here. So, longsword. All right, let's zoom in. Where's my zoom? Okay, longsword. So you got your spirit helm breaker. Sorry, phone's going off. Spirit gauge. No. When you use get it on a clash, okay, charge. Hits that deal harm build up your charge gauge by +1 per hit. Okay? So you've got a charge, which is... if we go back to the character sheet, yeah, it's one of these down here. You can choose any one of these to be your charge gauge for your good grief. Give me just a second. Okay, sorry about that. Where was I? So, oh gosh. So you, so one of these would be your charge gauge for the longsword. The other one you would use as your spirit gauge. So, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to remember the rules for the longsword. So, charge gauge and then spirit gauge. So as your charge gauge fills up, you would try and store that energy. So you would when so immediately after a strong hit, you can attempt to store your charges and increase your spirit gauge by 1. If your spirit gauge is not full, if your charge gauge is not full, it will fail to store, but it will not reset the gauge to 0. All harm dealt is increased by 1 for each level your spirit gauge is filled. So on a strong hit, stores charges. On a weak hit, no charges are stored, but you don't suffer any harm. So this is like you try and do your move to store your charges, but the monster jumps in and you've got to like dodge out of the way. And then on a miss, no charges stored, but you also pay the price, meaning you probably got hit. And then this is the Foresight Slash, which in Monster Hunter World is the counterattack that you can make. So when you get a strong hit on a clash, your blade quivers with spiritual energy, and you can immediately fill your charge gauge. So it's not just +1 like the normal hits. You immediately fill that charge gauge. And then you can, since you got a strong hit, you can attempt to store your charges. So you would roll for that. So with longsword, it's kind of like doing that dance of, yes, I could be in aggression and deal damage easier, but if I play in a more defensive way, I can fill up my charge gauge quicker and get to a point of dealing more damage quicker. And then you've got your Spirit Helm Breaker, which is the move where you strike and launch yourself up in the air and then do a massive damage. You deal bonus harm equal to double your spirit gauge level. Hit or miss, you lower your spirit level by 1. Which I'll probably edit this to add elemental damage. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do elemental damage when I wrote this. But sorry. Trying to talk to my wife. I may have to cut this short. and I really don't want to, but we'll see. We'll keep going until I hear back from her. So, anyways, that's how charge works. So charge gauge. Some weapons have a attribute that allows them to charge their weapons. Charge is represented by one of the unmarked gauges at the bottom of your character sheet. If you are using a weapon that has a charge attribute, choose one and label it as such. Black out any squares that will not be needed for your weapon's particular charge gauge. Example: the switch axe only has a charge gauge max of 4, so you only need 4 empty squares and to black out the 5th one. So you would basically black out 1, and you would only have 4 to fill. Notes. So notes are for everybody's favorite little doot stick, which is the hunting horn. So notes are a special case that are only used with one weapon, the hunting horn. When the hunting horn hits, it accumulates notes that can be strung together. These notes can then be played by the wielder to unleash special buffs to the party. Any song played will stick around until one empty clock becomes completely full. After that, the song fades and must be played again to regain its attributes. I might have to call it quits here. Dang it. Sorry, my daughter woke up and she needs someone to look after her. So, let me go over this real fast. Notes tracking. A song can be up to 5 notes to play. You can choose one of the unmarked gauges on the bottom of your character sheet to record which notes you play in a sequence. Since the notes via the weapon are numbered instead of color coordinated, like in the game, simply write the number of the first note in the first square, the number of the second note in the second square, and so on. Once the song is played, clear the numbers and start again. So, I believe there are 9 or 10 notes. I think I've got it in here somewhere. Can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, so 10 notes. And these are the numbers. I haven't really put more down than this just yet, but basically, if you have a weapon that does like 3, 6, and 8, you would use an attack and say, okay, I'm using 3 first, and then use an attack and say, okay, I'm using 6 next, and then 6 again. So basically, as you land attacks, you choose which numbers you play. Um, okay, well, yeah. Unfortunately, I've got to cut this short. Life does happen. I'm a little disappointed because I wanted to at least get through, the first section of the rules. But it's all right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Anyone that does tune in, and I'll try and pick it up next time.